Greetings and salutation. This is like the fifth time I've tried to make this video. And so my goal here is to do kind of a summary review, thoughts and takes on my new experience with the new map on Conan Exiles. And for many of you know, I passionately despise Tencent, but one of my friends recommended, he's like, brother, you have so much experience with Conan Exiles, with all the time that you put in and breaking down mechanics. I would appreciate a review from you. So I was like, okay, fair enough. I'll take a deep dive, I'll jump into it, and I'll kind of give you my take and input. So here we go. 5 things that I like about Exiles. One is I feel like the map has more fidelity. It's got a little bit sharper visual, kind of an HD model set, which I really like. Two is I like the new Maelstrom mechanic, the hurricane that goes around the middle and pretty much how everything resets. I really like that. I also really like a lot the maps and these little dungeons they have. Let me close this. These little dungeons they have right here, the little symbols. There's 14 of them around the map, and even though they're cut and paste, they still have different monsters, different loot, and different level ranges. So I'm okay with that. That's fantastic. I also like how they have the little refuge island, which is great. So now, what I don't like about it, right? I love how there's new content. I love how it's on an island. So the if they want to add more content, it's easy for them to add more content because they can just add another little island. They can add a little island and it's easy peasy. It's really easy for them to kind of segue into more stuff. And so I really like that, but here's the problem that I've encountered with the game is that it is way too the island is dead. Like there's so sparse on animals and thralls, and the issue that you run into is that you have to do this little maelstrom game, and you get over there and it's like a couple little pissant thralls, and they're not even the ones that you want, and the complexity of them is like yeah, and so there's just not enough. I hate this word diversity, but there's just not enough diversity in the thralls, and so I really like the large themed camps like the shipwreck or the Separamu or some of those large NPC kind of cities or camps. I like that stuff because it was a lot of challenge fighting your way in there and then camping those spawns that you knew that were eventually going to hit. And by them kind of stripping that out and trying to make the thralls harder to get, it made the world sterile. This world is really sterile. And so, I get what they're trying to do in the mechanic, but they're too focused around this PvP because what they don't understand is the PvP construct of the game is so broken that it actually chases away the player base. The folks who stick around, the 6,000 concurrent players that stick around, are your PvE and community-based folks, and they really need to segue away from the PvP until they have more countermeasures integrated into the game. And I say that because I've thoroughly tested all of that stuff, and I have hundreds of videos. If you go back through there, I've been exploited by the Chinese on numerous occasions where they've basically hacked into my base or undermeshed into my base extensively, and I got lots of footage of them doing that. Because I'm in there doing on my blacksmithy, crafting stuff up, and here they come, popping through the walls, and it seems like they may have fixed the under-meshing in this video. Okay, so besides the world being ultra sterile, they've broken the food system. The food system has no purpose anymore, and then unfortunately, it's kind of a bummer. And so it also kind of ties into the climate system too. There's no point in the climate system, and although I like the fact that they went full retard on the gear sets. You know, when they make a cold weather gear, but it was designed for like appearance to be for cold, but that it gave you the heat bonus, and then they went full retard on that shit on the previous map, and they need to go through there and fix all that stuff. And I like how they segued away from that. And so their argument is as well, it still exists on the old map, so you know, now we can move away from that and fix it all. Well, maybe they need to do a 2.0 of the old map and fix all the armor sets and leave some of those servers up, and eventually, you know, move away from that shit within 2 or 3 years, because it's just horrible. I really hate it. It was immersion breaking, and I hated that stuff. So there's a, you know, as always, Conan has some serious underlying issues, and the developers live in a echo chamber, and they really need to listen to the community on some of these development aspects, because these are the folks who are staying around, pushing their content and supporting their game, and you know, they're kind of like, well, that they take the stance of their value, their message is not have value. Their message doesn't have value. And it's just one of those things where it's kind of a, who's this chick? What is she? What is she? She's Tanner. I don't need a Tanner. What do we got here? I think, what is he? Is Archer. I don't need an Archer. Okay. So, but yeah, like I was saying though, is, oh, come on. I noticed that the combat is a little locky too. I noticed that but they just got to add more random spawns with pets too, because the pets, the issue, oh come on, really? The pets, like, I can't find any baby cubs or pups or any of that stuff because of it's just so sparse, you know, and you have to, some of them are tied into other spawns, and so you have to clear that. I ran around for about oh shit. I ran around for about 3 hours looking for pups. Couldn't find anything. And then finally, I was like, hey, does anybody have anything I can buy? So I went and bought some off another player to try to get something to help me get going. And it was just one of those things where, yeah, it can be brutal. It can be brutal. But anyways, hopefully this video takes. Hopefully the developers realize that they live in an echo chamber and they listen to the community forums. They need to have more randomness in the world. They need to have more triggers and more randomness. And one of the ideas that I had is you know how they have these wild surges? Well, they also need to have shipwrecks, because they've already developed the assets for all of this wreckage along the coastline. And you have these little symbols here. They should have little shipwreck symbols that populate around the island. And these little shipwreck icons, it could be like, you know, white, kind of like these, you know, white or red or whatever. But basically, the construct is that you would get a thrall spawn along the coastline, and the thralls would make their way to the refuge camp and then despawn. And so, and then let's say with this ship, if this ship could have a name underneath it, like when I mouse over this, it says Wild Surge, it could be like the supply ship, and one spawns over here, and it's like the warship, you know, or the slave trading, the thrall convoy ship. And kind of the construct is those ships, when those thralls spawn on the coastline, like you would never see the ship out there, but when those thralls spawn on the coastline, there would also be supplies that spawned in with those that would exist for just a short period of time before those folks moved out on their path to the refuge camp. And by doing this creates a reason for additional gameplay and for them to drop what they're doing and run all the way across the map and try to participate in those spawned events that take place. So it's like a sub-layer of, and it would help kind of fluff up the world a little bit to where it's not so sterile. And maybe that's not a good word to use, fluff, but you know what I mean. It would help kind of layer it to where it give a little bit more immersion. And they really need to make a hard decision. If they're going to fully commit to the PvP, they need to have more traps. They need to have more defense traps, because as while you're watching some of my previous videos, you know, I could spend 3 days building a base and putting in all the layering and making walls that are 20 tiles deep, and then somebody could break into that within 10 minutes, with bombs. And the contrast, the counter, when is not sufficient for what they have. And there's no amount of engineering or base building that can protect you against. I prefer PvP, but what I've realized is it's just such a broken system that PvE conflict, is really the way to go. It really is. You get a lot more cordial environment. People are willing to trade and have discussions. It's not nearly as savage, and you get rid of a lot of the cheeseheads that are just looking for a quick thrill, and they figured out how to dupe or do malicious things inside the game engine that they've brought over from another game because it's in the Unreal 4 engine. So, as always, thanks for watching. I always appreciate the feedback. And I'm getting ready to die because I've been talking too long. All right. Thank you.